Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deandra Glover Thomas, and I am the program coordinator for the Kentucky Autism Training Center. And I'd like to welcome you today to today's webinar presentation, using video modeling with individuals with autism spectrum disorders. Today's presentation will be presented to you by Michelle Antle, who is a field trainer for the KATC. Feel free to ask questions or make comments at any point throughout the presentation by typing your question in the question box and clicking send. If you cannot see the question box, click on the orange box with the white arrow in the upper right corner of your screen to open the question box area, and Michelle will be answering all questions at the end of the presentation. Also today, you can download your handouts from your control panel as well. There's a copy of today's presentation on your control panel. Michelle Ansel completed her undergraduate degree at Kentucky Wesleyan College in Owensboro, Kentucky, and her Ed.S. degree in the field of school psychology. In 2011, Michelle was named Kentucky School Psychologist of the Year. She has worked as a school psychologist in public schools for 11 years and also has experience in the mental health field through serving as an autism coordinator for Family Options, Inc. and working with children and families through the Impact Plus program. In her current role here at KATC, Michelle provides direct training and technical assistance to education staff, social and community personnel, counselors, job coaches, and families. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to today's presenter and turn our screen over to Michelle Antle. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
I am switching over to you now.
Okay.
Okay, we can see your screen.
Okay. Give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Well, good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking with you about using video modeling as a strategy with a variety of individuals with autism spectrum disorders. And my objectives for today are hopefully to give you information about the basic types of video modeling, what kind of skills that you can use to teach our students. And also I'm going to give you some links to examples to different types of video modeling. If you're like me, I'm a visual learner, and while I'm attending a presentation, I can remember and follow along with what the presenter is talking about, but sometimes after I go home, I think about it and think, gosh, I really wish I would have taken more notes about what he or she was talking about. So I will be giving you some links so that hopefully you can watch some of those videos on your own at a later time. We have a new format of our system at KATC for our video webinars, and so in the past we've not been able to utilize video streaming. However, we've done a couple of trial runs and it seemed to work yesterday, so I'm going to be attempting to show you some different videos today in hopes that all of that technology is going to work again today so that we can have some talking points. As you know, video modeling is one of the many evidence-based practices that have been identified specifically by Wong and some of his constituents and colleagues. So I have included the link there at the bottom if you'd like to know more about some other evidence-based practices. But one of the reasons I bring this up today is because several of these evidence-based practices are actually directly tied to video modeling, and that's the reason why video modeling has been shown to work with a variety of individuals, not just even with autism, other individuals with cognitive delays, individuals that have normal cognitive functioning but may have difficulty with executive functioning or sequencing of events or remembering types of different daily living types of activities. So these strategies that we're going to talk about today are not just to be used with kids with autism, but definitely capitalize on their ability to use visual supports, and so therefore I feel like that's why they're so successful with our kids. So one of the evidence-based strategies that's also listed on that list are what we call technology-aided instruction or intervention, which in my opinion is a fancy way of saying that we're just incorporating technology as that central feature of teaching them new skills so that they can reach those goals, a wide variety of goals, whether that be communication, independent living, things like that. So technology, according to their definition, is just defined as any electronic items or equipment, applications that would definitely serve to increase or teach or improve or maintain, a variety of skills, whether, again, daily living, work, productivity, sometimes it's even conversation, teaching them how to play appropriately in their setting. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that. And luckily for us, we live in the day and age where technology is forever changing, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. And for many of us, we have iPads and iPhones or Android phones at our fingertips, and so we are definitely in an advantage because we can take advantage of opportunities that maybe in the past we would have had to take time to set up and kind of stage a little bit. So now we're able to kind of utilize that a little bit more readily and not have to worry about cords and audio and things like that. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why video modeling is starting to kind of be more utilized as an intervention strategy just because of the ease of use with the technology. We also need to talk a little bit about modeling. Modeling in general is one of the strategies that are also included on the evidence-based practice list. And in that evidence-based practice of modeling, it talks about how we're going to focus on a target behavior and we're going to hopefully get them to imitate that behavior so that they're going to learn a new behavior. And we also tie that closely with prompting them to do exactly what it is that we want them to do, and then also reinforcing any types of behaviors that we see along the way. May not be, that they get it 100% at first, but we're going to reinforce them for their efforts and hopefully streamline that behavior and shape it up to get it to what we need it to be. So just a little background about why these things are important and how that leads us to video modeling specifically. So obviously that's a type of instruction that's going to use video recording or technology to provide a visual model of the targeted behavior or skill that we want to teach. So as we know with our individuals with autism, we know that they're highly visual learners, and that could even be more so when we pair that with their peers engaging in those behaviors. For some of our kids that are very socially motivated, that in and of itself is motivation or reinforcement alone for them to try to imitate or engage in those behaviors. So with video modeling, we can show it to the learner who then has an opportunity to perform that or practice that either at that moment or a later point in time. And something that I want to emphasize here that I should have probably included on this slide is that video modeling is what we call a proactive strategy. So we're definitely going to think about how we're going to use this video model, but we also want to use that as a teaching tool and not in the moment. So if, let's say that we're going to be teaching a child how to respond if they're angry, the time to show them that video model is not going to be when they're throwing a fit and having a meltdown, because they're really not going to be able to process and understand what it is that we're saying to them anyway at that moment. And also, if we start to do that every time the negative behavior occurs and we show them a video, then they're going to start to have a negative connotation of, well, I don't want to watch a video because that means, I'm engaging in bad behavior. So just being really careful about making sure that we're using it as a proactive instead of a reactive strategy. So some general steps for using video modeling. This is when the first thing is that we're going to pick what we call an exemplar to perform that targeted behavior. So again, a targeted behavior is something positive that we want that our student or our child or adult to learn. So when we pick an exemplar, we want to make sure that our exemplar is good at doing that targeted behavior. So again, good behavior is what we need to be outlining on our videos, not negative or undesirable behaviors. Step 2 would be that the video is played for the learner before each teaching situation. Depending on the type of skill it is that you're targeting in your videos, I feel like it would probably be crucial to play that video daily and kind of talk with them or reinforce that periodically. For some of our kiddos that I've used video modeling with, they've watched it as many as 8 to 10 times a day, and they request the video in many times because they're anxious also, especially given with those students who want to learn social behaviors. And so that's okay. In my opinion, I think in the beginning they should be able to watch that video as many times as they want to, and especially if they're motivated for that. Step number 3, after that video is finished, the learner is prompted to perform the behavior. And I will interject here that I would make sure before you show your video to your learner, there's some things that you want to look for. Making sure, obviously, that that target behavior is easily recognizable with your exemplar that showed that for you. Also, making sure that there's not a lot of background noise or visual distractions that are in the video. We know that many of our students sometimes focus in or pick up on the wrong details of a social situation. So just making sure that there's not any arbitrary types of things present in our video that might confuse our learner in what it is that we're trying to teach them. Also, making sure that just as you watch the video that the steps are very clear cut and that you're trying to teach them. So again, that they're not confused, because if they're confused, that leads to frustration, which means that this intervention is probably not going to be effective for them because they're just not interested and they're not going to be reinforced or taught anything because of that confusion and frustration. So today we're going to talk about 4 different types of video modeling. The first is just a basic type of video modeling. Then we're going to talk about video self-modeling, what we call point of view modeling, and then also video prompting. So many times we get questions about, well, what kind of behaviors can we teach them using video modeling? And there's a wide variety of behaviors that we can focus on. It really just depends on your learner. It can also kind of depend on what their areas of strength and weakness are. You know, for some of our kiddos, focusing on communication, you know, teaching them how to request a food item would be a targeted skill, or talking about having a conversation or modeling for them that, you know, how important it is to look at your conversational partner when you're talking with them, or modeling for them on how to use or speak in complete sentences, things like that. Also, trying to recognize emotions. This is probably one of the more difficult behaviors to teach. And so with that video modeling, sometimes you can get different students or adults to kind of model what those emotions look like, and so you can kind of get a more wide variety of things and kind of compact them into one video versus trying to get emotions from different sources. Also, perspective taking. This is also what we call theory of mind. So being able to kind of take a step back and put yourself in the shoes of someone else. And that's a lot of times very difficult, specifically with our students with autism, because they feel like they're kind of the center of their own world. And so only is it when we're trying to teach social awareness and social cognition or social understanding, is it really important that we take the time to get them to understand, well, what would it feel like if you were in somebody else's shoes and you told them that they had bad breath? You know, how would that make you feel? And sometimes for those situations, you need some kind of a model or a video self-modeling type of thing so that they can either see that they're doing that to other individuals, or to kind of simulate a situation on how, and to teach them how to react in that situation. Also, it might teach them how to socially initiate with someone. How do I go up to a kid on the playground and say, hey, I want to play with you? Also, what does pretend play look like? You know, they may need to see a model so that they understand exactly what pretend means when you say that. Reciprocal play, meaning understanding the turn-taking aspect of play, my turn, your turn, and to see that, you know, eventually, yes, I'm going to get that toy back even when I give someone else a turn, so sharing. There's also other things like adaptive behaviors, so things in your environment like going to the dentist or the doctor, you know, easy things like we think that would be easy, like things like washing hands, but sometimes they can forget all those multiple steps that might be involved. Also, any other self-help skills like teeth brushing or combing your hair or how to get dressed. As skills progress, you can also teach them, how to use an ATM, how do you find things in the grocery store. And I really think that a lot of times we don't realize it, but we ourselves rely on YouTube videos sometimes for how to do things. And so that's a form of video modeling in and of itself. If my husband is traveling and the doorknob falls off in my hand in the door when I walk in, I obviously can't not have a door on the outside of my house, doorknob. So I might get online and figure out, how to reinstall a doorknob or things like that. So we often go to how-to videos online in our everyday lives as well. So by teaching them that, we're also teaching them a coping skill as well. So if there's not an adult in their life, we're teaching them resources that they can utilize themselves to be more independent. Also, a variety of academic tasks. It may be, again, that they don't even realize that they're not on task in the classroom, but showing them different, maybe off-task behaviors that they don't realize that they have, or obviously teaching them more important behaviors, that what a good learner looks like in the classroom. You can also work on teaching reading comprehension strategies, how to read for meaning, things like that. And very obviously, imitative responses. So anything that we want them to copy so that they'll learn independent skills. And again, video modeling can be used with a variety of individuals, not just kids with autism. And you can, use it also with a variety of students on no matter where they are on the spectrum. It just kind of depends on what your intensity and focus in terms of teaching those targeted behaviors need to be in terms of appropriateness. So here's an example of video modeling, and this is actually taken from the Autism Internet modules, and I'm going to kind of show you some additional resources that they provide you so you can tap into that also. Ashley's a 3-year-old with autism, and she's well behaved, but only wants to play with Legos all day. So her parents think that video modeling might be a great idea to teach her how to play with other toys, and so they ask a neighbor's child to be in the video. So his parents agree, and they make a video of that peer playing a variety of games and toys, and then showing also how that student can transition from activity to activity. And so because Ashley enjoys watching TV, her parents are hopeful that using this video modeling technique will prompt her to copy those behaviors and engage in several new play behaviors. So one of the examples, and bear with me here, I'm going to have to click over to my internet browser, but one of those examples is definitely, that I'm going to show you, is on what we call the Autism Internet Modules website. You simply just type in autisminternetmodules.org. You create a login. It's free, so just put in your email address and establish a password, and you too can access anything that is on this website. There was some question about whether this website was going to continue to be free. It's my understanding that it will be up until this time. If you were to need to use this website for continuing education credits or something like that, there may be a small fee in order for you to obtain those types of things, but all of this content should be available for you. So I'm going to kind of walk you through where I'm going to find this information, so you can also go back and reference this at a later time. So for today's purposes, I'm going to click on the link that says Autism at Home. And it's going to give you a wide variety of different videos or modules that you can interact with. And I'm simply going to scroll to the very bottom down here where it says Video Modeling. And you see when it comes up, over on the left-hand side, there's a whole table of contents in which you can make this as formal or as informal as you like. For those of you who work in a school, this might be really helpful on days that you have professional learning community days, maybe where you have staff that may not be attending a certain training for the day, but that you're looking for some content that would be right up their alley in terms of things that they might need to know for several of the students in their classroom. So the great thing about that is they have a pre-assessment, so you can kind of ask questions about what knowledge you have about the topic before you get started. It also gives you objectives, an overview, kind of some general definitions of who could, utilize some of these types of things. Specifically, I'm going to scroll down here to some different types of video modeling, and we're going to kind of look at that. So again, it gives you some of those steps and gives you some other references there if you ever need to do so. And these are also great for maybe parent support groups. If you're in charge of leading a parent support group, pulling this up on a website on a screen and having each of your or having your group kind of watch it together and then have to stop and have talking points about kind of what's going on. So this is a video just in general about how to do something and just gives an overall good example.
We're going to learn how to take out the trash. When the garbage bag is full inside the trash can, it's time to take out the garbage. First, you open the garbage can. Then, you take the bag and you get two sides. Take the bag out and tie the ends together. Now you're ready to take it outside. I open the lid of the garbage can. I place the bag inside it. I put the lid back on. I'm ready to go inside, and I just took out the trash.
So that gives you a good example of how that might be utilized in, that you could do just a general summary. If you'll give me just a second. Seem to be having some technological difficulties here. So that's the link. If you need that, that should be available in your handouts. So then we also talk about a more specific type of modeling, video modeling, which is what we call video self-modeling. And this follows the same basic premise as just overall modeling, except the model that we're going to focus on in this type of video is the learner himself. So sometimes the difficult thing about doing this is if you're teaching a child a new skill, then obviously that child may not know how to do that skill. So this may or may not be a good strategy for some learners in that if you can't get them to exhibit the behavior correctly the first time, to get a good video sample, that may be difficult. One time that this might be an appropriate strategy is that you know that the kid or student might be able to exhibit the behavior in a practice type of setting, but maybe they're having problems generalizing that skill over to a social setting. So it might be that they can initiate a conversation with a peer if they're in their home environment, but let's say that in a grocery store, if they recognize that peer, that same peer, they may have difficulty approaching them and starting a conversation with them. So having them seeing themselves in a different scenario might help them. If you have this on, let's say, an iPhone, and you can watch it as they're walking into, a grocery store, then that kind of jogs their memory about, okay, if I see someone I know, this is how I can exhibit this particular skill. So this can be especially motivating for some of our learners because they really like seeing themselves on camera. At the polar opposite, some kids do not like seeing themselves on camera and can be highly, offended by seeing themselves in somewhere other than a mirror. So kind of be mindful of that and kind of test that out for a trial run, because for some kids that's easier to do than others. In some situations, we may, again, want to have our learner's face in the picture, but that might be really difficult, again, if they don't know that skill. So one of the examples that I'm going to show you here in a minute, they kind of use some new technology, I guess, and kind of superimposed the face of their child onto the face of another child who actually engaged in some of that behavior. So I think they should get an A for creativity in that department for sure. So some examples of video self-modeling, it may be that, let's say that Jose is a middle school kid and he has trouble transitioning from his locker in between classes. He's taking too much time, he's going to be tardy for class, and for Jose, he loves to see himself in videos. So his teachers decide maybe that video modeling would be a good way to teach him how to best transition timely between his classes. So they show him how he gets up and approaches his locker, and then how he goes through the routine of saying hi to a friend and then quickly getting to his next class, which obviously is going to show that that's the desirable behavior that we want them to see. So again, here's some video examples. And the first one that I'm going to show you is a YouTube video that I love, and it's a little I just think that it's really creative on how that they've been able to superimpose a student's face, their student's face, in the video to kind of reflect, hey, look at me, when it's really not exactly me going through the motions, but can kind of teach that student that. I would caution you heavily, though, that if you do rely on YouTube videos, many of the YouTube videos that are out there may or may not show you the effective evidence-based practice way of using video modeling. A lot of the videos that are uploaded may be just uploaded by lay people, which are great examples to use, but I definitely would encourage you to definitely preview them for accuracy. Also making sure, again, that those good behaviors are the only things that are highlighted on those videos, and avoiding those background noises or distractions as well. So here's a video about going to the dentist. This is a great example of some of those teaching adaptive or independent living or life skills.
This is a movie about you going to the dentist. At the dentist's office, you will wait in the waiting room before your appointment.
Hi, it's time to clean and count your teeth.
When your name is called, you will walk into another room. A grown-up will stay with you the whole time.
Okay, time to sit in the chair.
You will go into a room with a special chair. Great job sitting down in the special chair.
So as you can see, she's highlighting
Now
all
the
of what
hygienist
to
will help to
expect.
get you ready for the dentist.
Of what to expect at the dentist office, and you can see that they're giving you a very good perspective of what the room and the waiting room may look like. And in a few minutes, you'll actually hear they give you samples of maybe what a drill or you know, the toothbrush might sound like that they might use to clean your teeth. So those are all really good things to be thinking about when you're making your videos as well, because the whole purpose of this video is to highlight situations or skills and call attention to things that they may not understand about. And for some of our kiddos, just knowing what to expect, you know, is enough for them. And so giving them, even though it may not be exact, you can kind of explain to them that your dentist office may look like this.
There will be a bright light to help see inside your mouth. Now it is time for you to get a special dentist bib. That was easy. The hygienist will use a mirror to look at your teeth and also count them. Open wide. Great job. This will take just a minute.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Now you are ready to have your teeth cleaned. The hygienist will use a special brush that sounds like this.
So you get the general idea.
We'll use the mirror to look in your mouth.
So you can make it as long or
Open
as short
wide.
as you need to.
Very good.
So this one is about 3 minutes long. And also really remember to keep in mind the age of your student that's going to be watching this, because for our younger kids, 3 minutes is a really long time for them to focus their attention on learning a new skill. Another example, and this is on the website as well, the Autism Internet modules, is this gentleman here who's going to teach you the steps of washing your hands.
Okay. Pat is going to show us how to wash hands. Wash hands. Go ahead. I have
So you can see that there's a big difference in the two examples. If you notice in the first example, it was full of verbal language. So they were also giving you kind of a play-by-play as they went through each step. And in that last video, you simply just saw the individual exhibit the behaviors and there were no verbal explanations. So that's a really good way to kind of show the differences in how you can streamline that for the individuals that you work with. The other type of modeling is what we call point of view modeling. And this is a unique way of showing what that behavior is actually going to look like through the learner's eyes. So this is simply going to put the camera kind of in the perspective of their eyes to see what viewpoints they're going to see. This might be a good example would be, you know, Billy, let's say he's a 7-year-old child with autism and he really likes playing sports, but he can't exactly tie his sneakers to be independent. So if he is not going to have an adult necessarily there to teach him that, his mom may use what we call point of view modeling to teach him how to tie his shoes. So she might make the video by filming, you know, his older brother or someone else close to him doing that same action, but it might just show, you know, including that you might just show, though, their hands, how they reach down, work on the laces. That wouldn't show his whole body, and it definitely would be the perspective of actually what he would see when he's trying to tie his own shoes. So let me click over. One of the first videos I'm going to show you is how to put your socks on. And again, just like the last video that I showed you, excuse me, it may be that you know, you have words, and even if you don't have verbal language, you could have typed language at the bottom, so that would make it easier for them to follow along. So as you can kind of see there, they had a really catchy tune that they put it to music for. So seem to really like that. For some of our kids, that's a fun way. This is also another example, again, of that shoe tying example that I showed you on what it would look like from their perspective.
Occupational therapy is good for you.
So if you kind of saw what she did there, they obviously cut and pasted and edited to show that several times so that they could have that same behavior, you know, seen a couple of times in a row. I don't know about you all, but I tried to do that last night with myself, and I'm like, wow, I've never thought of trying tying your shoes like that, but it's definitely a good strategy, I guess, something different. The fourth type of video modeling is video prompting. And that's just a way that we're going to use to teach a sequence of skills. So in this particular type, instead of recording an entire sequence of behaviors at one time for them to watch, what you're going to do is record a specific skill and then follow that by a pause, so that way they can kind of imitate each step of the behavior as they go along. So you're going to prompt them through how to do that larger type of activity. And for some of our kids, you may also need to edit that and show that same process or sequence several times so that they can watch it several successive times in a row. So one example of video prompting might be that you have an 8-year-old who doesn't speak, and she really enjoys helping others and doing things, but she might have a difficult time learning to complete daily living activities. But we know that that would be a good way to introduce her to the social world and to get her involved with her peers. So her teacher might decide that we're going to record the sequence of steps that would be required on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So we would show Mary that section of the videotape and stop at each after each step, so that way she could kind of follow along. And then once that entire video prompting was complete, she could take her sandwich and eat with her peers at lunch, or you could even have them do that activity as a large group, and they could all do it together. So here's another example that they give, and this one is also a YouTube example, but shows a therapist actually working with a teenager in the home to learn some self-help skills.
Out, but then we need to get ready. So what do you need to get ready? Hit it again.
First, I get dressed.
So first, you need to get dressed. So come here.
So this is also showing how you can use communication boards and other support strategies to prompt them to use those.
Grab it. All right, now let's go get dressed. Okay, where do you need to go to get dressed? Show me what you need. First. Yes. Okay, put that on. Yes, we're getting ready. So first you got to put on some shorts. You know, Finley's trying to help you. It's a good little shove. Nice. And then what's next? Nice job, you got it right. All right. Ready? Pick out a shirt. Yes, you're getting dressed. You're getting dressed. So you can go. French fries. Okay, now get dressed. What do you need next? You need a shirt. You can look through your shirts. You can go like this and see what you have. Is there something that you want to wear? You want that one? All right, put it on. Put it on. Take the big end. Nice job.
So as you can see, she's using different types of prompting sequences even present in the video. So turning it to a certain direction so that way he can understand that that's, you know, the expected behavior. But if you also notice, she's also using lots of reinforcement for each individual step that he completes independently on his own. And I think sometimes we lose sight of the importance of making sure that we're doing that as we go along because of the level of frustration and concentration that it may require for some of our students. So you can finish watching that on your own if you would like, but just a really good way of giving you some examples, hopefully, to kind of go off of what might be some good examples of video modeling. So really and truly, that's kind of what video modeling is in a nutshell. I've also included some other references there for you. And one additional reference that I want to call attention to is the fact that a colleague of mine, Deborah Myers, who is a low incidence consultant with the Green River Region Educational Cooperative, she and I kind of put some of these videos together and kind of succinctly got this information together as we were trying to get some quick and dirty information out to some of the teachers that we worked with. So I just wanted to give a quick kudos to her for helping me get some of this together. So at this time, I will definitely take any questions that you may have. Feel free to always contact us here at the center. There are 3 current field training coordinators, so depending on where you're located in the state. Myself, I'm located in West Kentucky and kind of south central Kentucky. Laura Ferguson kind of serves the central part of the state, and then Kim Howard is our other training coordinator who serves the eastern part of the state. So again, if you have any questions, I will be looking at the question box and be able to take any questions that you might have.
Michelle,
Yes.
I see one question. How do you decide which type of video modeling is most appropriate to use and when?
I think that's really going to depend on your individual. For many of our kids, my go-to model usually is that I might start with just a simple videoing a peer doing that or engaging in that behavior. Sometimes it also depends on what behavior it is that I'm wanting to teach and how, the ease of showing that in a video is going to be. And then after I show them that video of that peer doing that behavior, I kind of gauge my behavior on, okay, did the kids seem to understand what it is that they were being shown in the video? Or maybe it's that I don't think that they're understanding, and so maybe it's that I need to kind of switch gears and then redo that video based on maybe their point of view kind of thing.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, sometimes it's just trial and error. I would encourage you that if you're just getting starting with video modeling, just pick one. There's not going to be a wrong way or a right way necessarily. You're not going to do any damage by picking the wrong type of video modeling. I would just choose one, see if it works, and then if not, adjust accordingly. For most of our kids, they really enjoy seeing other kids, peers specifically, doing those types of behaviors. But for other of our kids, it may be hard for them to generalize to understand that, okay, just because that kid does this, that's what I'm supposed to do too. So you may just have to individualize it kind of as you go along. And for some kids, we may have used a more traditional form of video modeling where they watched a student engage in a certain behavior for this particular skill. But then when we were trying to teach them, let's say, independent skills, such as tying their shoes or things like that, we had to switch gears and actually teach them, from the point of view type of modeling. So it really can just kind of vary depending on, in my opinion, the student as well as what type of skill that you're going to teach.
Okay.
Dee, can you see any other questions? Because I'm not seeing anything in the
Nope,
question.
I don't see any other questions.
Okay. Well, thank you all for attending today's webinar. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact any of us at the KATC.
Thank you all for attending. That concludes today's presentation. And thank you for Michelle for today's presentation.
Absolutely.